My back feet were running late this evening. Jammed up. All right. I'm going to start in a minute. I'm a little late. All right. Go ahead and get into it. We're ready. All right, peace and greetings. Welcome all the gods and goddesses on the path that are doing work. All right, let me just get to a couple quick announcements, then we'll get into it. I'm just gonna freestyle a bit tonight, kind of flow with it. Kind of gonna leave it up to you guys tonight if you want, whatever questions you want to ask. I'm gonna put the call-in number in. If you want to call in, or if you want to just type something in the chat, I'm just gonna kind of have a question and answer discussion. Before we do that, just a couple quick announcements. Again, a couple people have emailed just to reiterate, there is no ritual for the end of this month. Obviously, today's the 25th. We decided a few weeks back to take a break for this month, so there is nothing this month. All right. Received 2 emails inquiring about it. We will reconvene next month on the 27th. As you see, I posted the flyer. I sent it out for the upcoming ritual in the month of December. If you're on the mailing list, I've also posted it on the Instagram and Facebook. It's also located in the community section here in the YouTube channel. Again, that's a great place to stay up to date as far as announcements, because I'll get emails and, oh, what is it we got going on, et cetera, et cetera. They posted in those areas on the Primordial Chaos Instagram, Primordial Chaos Facebook, or right here on the community section. You will see all the latest things that are going on. Anything that I announce here it's on all those platforms. So that's the best place to stay up to date. So on the 27th of December, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, here in Fort Lauderdale, we will be doing the ritual of Samael, the Angel of Death. We will be connecting the aspect of life and death and how it's interwoven and how we should perceive it on the left-hand path of self-mastery. Okay. So that'll be on the 27th of December, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, the information for the upcoming winter session of classes, which will begin on January 25th. That information, I have sent it out to those that have requested it. I've sent it out to those that are on the email list. It has all the information for the course, the curriculum, how to sign up, the cost of the class. All that information is in the email if you're interested in taking that class. And again, as I said, I now am structuring it where I do it twice a year, in January and June, full 6 to 8 week sessions. And then I'll just do some individual ones here and there in between. This session will begin January 25th. It's every Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it runs about 4 hours a session for 8 weeks. But again, you can email me and request the information, and I'll get that over to you. Also, just to put it out there, as we did last year, after last year's Journey of the Black Adept Conference. So the Journey of the Black Adept Conference number 3, that will be on the 26th to the 28th of October in 2020. You can pencil that date in, make plans to attend. We keep that set time of the year, last weekend in October. This way it gives those who are deciding to attend, it gives them plenty of time to prepare as far as travel, hotel arrangements, this and that. So mark that date down, October 26th to the 28th, 2020. So I'm on tonight only because of the holiday upcoming, a lot of things going on. I will go back to Wednesdays next week, but due to the fact of the Thanksgiving holiday and things that to be done, etc., I will not be doing a video Wednesday. That's why I'm doing one this evening. So back next week on Wednesday. Again, remember to hit the like button. When you hit the like button here on the videos, it expands the channel. It reaches out to more people when they are surfing on YouTube. Also subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you can get any notifications of live videos or any uploaded videos. The channel is monetized. If you would like, you can. Not necessary, but always appreciated. You can donate to the channel 2 ways. If you go to the bottom of your chat screen there, you see a money symbol. You can donate that way, or you can go to PayPal using the email in the description box, khnum19@gmail.com. That's the best way to contact me. And then the last thing for readings and consultations. Right now, regular readings and consultations, which I do throughout the year. But for the month of December and January, I do what we call, just in the month of December and January, a yearly forecast reading. Since I announced it last week, that's filling up. If you're interested in that, specify when you send me an email if you're just interested in a regular reading or a consultation, or the yearly forecast reading. The yearly forecast reading takes a bit longer than a regular reading. The regular reading is an hour. The yearly forecast reading is an hour and a half, slightly more. And it's a little bit more detailed because of what we cover. But those are filling up quick. And I only do those in the month of December and January only. After January, I don't do them anymore until the following year, obviously, because it's a yearly forecast reading. So if you're interested in that, or a reading, a regular reading or a consultation, please specify in your email the days and times you are available. Very important. Most people don't include that in their initial email. It just saves extra time going back and forth emailing. So in your initial email, if you are requesting a reading or consultation or a yearly forecast reading, please specify in the email the days and times that are best for you. And please specify the time zone you live in. I'm in Eastern Standard Time. I need to adjust those appointments according to Eastern Standard Time with your time zone if you're in a different time zone. Also, shout out to the Black Flame 11 crew. We had our call a few weeks ago. Moving forward with the event that we will be doing in March. Let me double check the date. I think it's the 20th. I just want to make sure I'm not putting the wrong date out there. This event is being done by the Black Flame 11 crew. You'll see some of them in here right now, or pretty much in here, a lot of them, most of the time. Let me just make sure I got the right date. I don't want to fuck it up. Yeah, Friday, March 20th, 2020, we will be doing the ritual of Lucifer, the light bearer. Anyone is welcome to attend, as long as you send me an email and contact, especially if you're in the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, or any of these surrounding areas, or if you can get there from wherever, if you would like to come, shoot me an email. That event will be on March 20th, 2020. That'll be in New York City. We meet regularly planning these events. We're looking to do we're going to try to do 2 events a year in New York. So if you are in that area or you would like to get down with the Black Flame 11 crew, shoot me an email. But again, let me stress, it is a group that has come together to decide to do work. All right, it's not a social club, it's not a hangout, and it's not for curiosity seekers. All right, if you want to participate and be a member of the Black Flame 11, and you're going to actually participate and do work, shoot me an email. You could even contact, I believe Brother Angel's in here. That would probably even be a better person to contact. Yeah, if you see Angel Figueroa, that's Brother Angel. He's kind of the scribe of the Black Flame 11, keeps the records and the notes and all that. You could even reach out to him if you're interested in finding out information about the Black Flame 11, and I'm sure he'll get back to you with that information. So he's probably a better contact for that because he's kind of the facilitator of that. And I communicate with him as far as, and others communicate with him as far as the going ons. So feel free to reach out to him if you are interested. All right. So that will be in March. All right. That pretty much covers all the announcements. I think I got to everything. Obviously, we got Thanksgiving week. I know I'm gonna have fun. I don't care what the conscious clowns say. It's funny because it's just so funny now how this time of the year now everybody just somebody, I don't even want to say who, but somebody sent me some stupid ass shit which I thought was comical. Everybody wants to be conscious when it's around the holidays. Well, I'll tell you what, celebrating Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, I don't care what anybody says. It's just what I'm gonna do. And most of these people now that you shouldn't celebrate Thanksgiving. Well, listen, you live in the United States of America. If you want to be Kuta Matata, get on a damn plane and go somewhere where they don't celebrate any of these things. That's all I gotta say to you. I couldn't give a shit. And half of the people that talk that nonsense, they'll be the first people sitting down at a table eating some goddamn turkey. So let's not fool ourselves. All right. But there's bigger things to discuss than that nonsense. I wouldn't even waste my time and energy doing a video on Thanksgiving. It's corny. Straight cornball shit. All right. All right. So what I kind of want to do is I'm just gonna flow with it. Let me go up. If you got any questions, let's not try to get into personal experiences. Let's not try to, I had a dream. You know, I know everybody's Martin Luther King. They had a dream. You know, because that kind of, when it's personal and subjective, that takes a little more detailed work. I always suggest if you're having personal experiences, dreams, events happening, I always suggest if you can get with me to do a divination session through a reading or a consultation. That's the proper forum for that. I just want to make that clear. If you got questions tonight about spiritual path systems, the occult, that's the kind of the questions and the things we want to discuss tonight. I've always said before, because I get emails all the time, I had a dream. Dreams are personal. Really, in essence, whether it's me, somebody else, somebody can only give you advice on actually what a dream is. Most dreams are very symbolic, and it's never what it is on the surface. And decoding them or deciphering them is up to you, because I keep telling people when you have dreams, you should keep, if you're a person that has a lot of dreams. Now, some people don't really, have a lot or intense dreams. But if you're that individual that does have a lot of dreams, you should keep a dream journal book, because I've always told people over the years, you might have a dream tonight, and then 6 months later, you might have something that connects and clarifies that. That's the importance of keeping a dream journal. 2, it's never what it is on the surface. 3, always pay super attention to everything in the dream. If it's in a room, if it's in an indoor environment, make sure you try to recollect everything: colors, walls, the makeup of the place, colors, all that stuff is significant. If it's external, outside, all that stuff you should take note of, because there's a reason for that. There's a reason why the subconscious mind is taking you there, because remember, the subconscious mind communicates, especially through dreams, via what it can activate in your conscious to get you to connect. So that's why it's never what it is on the surface. For an example, once we say I had this dream, and in this dream I was attacked by this wild dog, or this violent thing happened. That necessarily don't mean you're gonna die. It could be symbolic that something within you needs to be destroyed, but the subconscious mind is communicating with you, showing you to bring you to the awareness that you need something that you got going on around you at the current moment. This is a way to decipher and decode dreams, okay? Nobody can really sit you down and say, well, I had this dream and such and such, such and such. And go, well, this is what this is, this and that. Now, you can use systems of divination to give you some keys. But in the end, the individual is the one that's going to have to come to the conclusion and what the meaning of that dream was, because it's personal. It's very subjective. It's internal. and you have to do the work. You can't let somebody else draw the conclusion for you. Again, it doesn't mean you can't get advice. It doesn't mean you can't seek information. But in the final sum of all things, you need to come to the conclusion of what that dream was, why you had it, and what it meant to you. And usually when you do that type of work and use those steps, you will find out, you will get clarity on it. But if you're more trying to have somebody else figure it out for you, you'll never get clarity on it. All right? Don't even know why that shit came up again. All right, so let's go through. All right, looks like Cinnamon and Sage has a question again. So we're just gonna question and answer discussion. What I will do in a minute, I'll go through the chat and I'll try to go back and forth with the chat, and then I'll put the call-in number. If you want to call in, you can call in and ask your question. All right, Cinnamon says, greetings. Question: how do you keep your emotions in check without allowing them to co-trim you? Or maybe I'm not understanding that part. Allowing them to just clarify that. I want to make sure I'm not, maybe you spelt it or I'm not understanding. I want to make sure I don't want to answer it and I'm not understanding. I'm getting ready to start my cycle classes, so I'll catch for the response. Thank you. All right, I'm not sure, Cinnamon Sage, you said maybe you said control you. Maybe that was a misprint, misspell. Because I think that's what you meant to type. How do you, all right, I'm going to assume it's that based on the way you structured the question. I think that's just a typo. I don't think you meant co-trim you. I believe you meant control you. It's a good question. And we have to have the ability. Now, all emotions serve a purpose. Let's understand that. Contrary to belief, what other systems will tell you. For an example, most spiritual systems, philosophies, and dogmas will tell you anger is not good, rage is not good, hate is not good, viralness is not good. That's kind of a two-edged sword, and let me explain what I mean by that. Hate can be a productive thing. You might be saying to yourself, what the hell are you talking about? I've said this before. You can hate a toothache. That's the emotion of hate. But to hate somebody just because they're successful and you're a failure, that's a hate that can consume you. And you have to connect that to your ego. So understand the good, productive parts of your ego, the part of your ego that protects you, that automatically kicks in that defense mechanism. When you're inquisitive and when you are using critical thinking, that's the upside to your ego. So let's dispel this myth that all aspects of the ego is bad, and how all these light, fluffy paths tell you you need to suppress your ego. So when we talk about controlling our emotions, we don't want to forcefully control them. When we do that, we are not letting the energy that needs to facilitate through us work in a harmonious aspect. That's the problem. So you got to look at the two-edged sword. Like you hear that saying, there's a thin line between love and hate, right? It's okay to hate somebody that attacks or hurts innocent children for no reason, right? So we could look at the two-edged sword of the emotion hate, love, right? There are productive loves and then there's destructive love. When you are obsessed via love, that can be something not only destructive to yourself, but to others, because your personal get in the way, which can lead to an uncontrollable rage that you lose complete control of and you make a stupid decision to do something. Then there's what we call a divine love, or as they say in Eastern mysticism, divine ishq, which is the totality of what we know as love, which comes from the ansata, the heart chakra, right? What is that? That's not materialistic love, love of a car, a piece of jewelry, a nice house. That's not even love of one's own children, spouse, or mate, right? Those are physical forms of love. Divine ishq is more of a vibration and frequency and energy that you absorb. It could be things such as the appreciation of a simple sunrise. Again, I won't sound fluffy and corny, but I'm going to keep it real with you. It could be a cool breeze blowing across your face. It could be just looking out on the water and appreciating the awe of nature and creation. It could be seeing the reflection or the good in others, vice versa. That all is connected to a different form of love, not materialistic or physical forms of love. So I'm trying to show you the flip side to both of these energies, right?
As we know in the Hermetic principles of Tahuti, these are just varying vibrational degrees of the same thing. But the vibration of those degrees change and fluctuate based on how we decide we're going to absorb and facilitate those emotions. So we have to dispel that myth as far as controlling your emotions, which then again is a good question. So I think what most individuals need to focus on, you don't want the emotions that can cause you issues on your path for growth. All right. So if you're blindsided or you're blinded, by lust, that can destroy you. If you are you don't have your emotions in check, and we call people haters, right? We hear that term. A person's a hater. If you spend all your time hating on people, usually that's a time because you're a failure. And all that energy and time you spend wasting on hate, you could be using that energy to productively for yourself to improve yourself, right? These are the type of emotions you want to keep in check. The most important parts of keeping your emotions controlled. I'd rather use the word harmony because controlled seems more, and I'm just saying, I'm not saying the question was asked on that line, but controlled seems more, dogmatic. So I don't want to say control, but to keep your emotions in harmony, the most important is, and all of us struggle with this, and it's something that we all need to continually work on, is not to be reactive out the gate about anything. Always be proactive. Before you react to a situation, gather the facts. Use critical thinking. Analyze. I don't care if it's a situation, a scenario, studying a certain philosophy or doctrine. Before you draw your conclusions, or just never be reactive out of the gate. Catch yourself. When you start training yourself to do those things and you discipline the mind, you will catch yourself before you go off the deep end and lose check of your emotions. Trust me, if you're doing the work. Now, also, probably the greatest way to keep your emotions in harmony is shadow work, right? We talk about it all the time. What better way to keep things functioning within yourself, within harmony? Because shadow work is about knowing the real you, understanding the real you, the pure essence of who you really are, and being real with yourself, and understanding, accepting, and embracing the fucked up parts about yourself, and not shying away from it, not making excuses for it, or not trying to blame other people for your shortcomings, but understanding and accepting this is what's fucked up about me, and this is what I need to work on, fix, and correct. Right? That's a great way, because you might find out you have a bad temper when it comes to this or that. You might find out that I need to have a better relationship with my children. I'm not putting the effort and energy in that I need to establish that relationship. You might find out you suck ass with balancing a checkbook and money and paying bills. That you might be more, you act on impulse and you piss and shit money away. That you have no control when you go into a store. You just buy anything you desire, not realizing the consequences of it. I'm just giving you examples. These are great ways to keep your emotions within harmony, because once you identify it, then you can take action to work on it. But if you know you got these things going on, but you're not being real with yourself and identifying it, then it's just going to be a cycle that continues, and there's nothing you can do about it until you make the effort and the energy to address the shit yourself. But that's a very good question. All right. So remember, this is on you guys tonight. I'm just looking for questions on anything. I don't care what it. Well, like I said, don't get into any long spiels about I had a dream and all that shit. That's not the forum for that. All right. What else we got? Okay. So question by Yvette: can rituals be done anytime, or is it bestowed adhered to the moon cycles? Absolutely not. Don't get caught up in that. Now, all right, especially candle magic, for an example. Are the motion of the planets, the astrological signs, the sun being, in this astrological sign, the moon being in that, the waxing and the waning of the moon. Can you utilize that? Yes. Okay. Are energies at higher peaks at certain times? Yes. Is it absolutely mandatory? Absolutely not, because that's where your power comes in. See, that too can become dogmatic in the sense that it becomes religious. And I did a video, I think a couple weeks ago, astrology on the left-hand path. Yvette, I don't know if you've seen it, but you might want to go back and scan through that video. I don't want anybody to get caught up in that because that's more new agey. The new agers do that. They become very religious when it comes to the astrological signs, and the sun is in this, and the moon is waxing in the sign of Virgo, and this is a great time to do this ritual tonight. Fuck that. If you have raw, primordial, chaotic energy, power as a black adept or magician, you can work magic. I don't care what the astrological sign is, waxing or waning of the moon, earthquakes, a hurricane, I don't care what's going on. If you are a god or a goddess and you have the ability to show forth and prove your power, you control those elements. But when you start believing that these things control you, you are now at its mercy. So I would say if you can plan and time your rituals, great. And if you have the ability to do it and plan it in accordance with those signs, great. But there's going to be times and situations where you got to do this shit on the fly. Now, that's new agers and watered down occultists, rely on that religiously. I don't fuck with that. When you're dealing with dark magic, especially when you're working with the telepathic and when you're working with a lot of these demonic forces and energies, that shit is out the window. That shit is irrelevant. It doesn't even matter. Okay? So that's more for the fluffy new agers and watered down occultists. I don't fuck with that. Now, if that's your thing, that's your bag of tea, fine. You know, power to you. But I'll be damned if anybody tells me you need to do this during this sign, during this astrological sign, during this moon is waxing, waiting, or this full moon. That's all bullshit. Now, when you start to accept it as a reality, you give it more life, you give it more power. But bottom line is this. Always ask yourself, who's the god or the goddess that's in control? How does that differ if a religious person is following some religious law in the Bible or the Quran? For some feast that you need to do this at this time and do this offering at that time. Now we're back to that shit. Well, I'm God. I do anything anytime I feel like. That's how I approach that. I couldn't give a fuck who agrees with it or not. That's irrelevant to me. I know. And the only person I need to convince of that is me. By way of what? My results. I couldn't give a shit if anybody loves, likes, hates, or agrees with my methodology. That's their business. That's personal. Let them figure out and find their way. So I wouldn't get caught up in that. You understand? Only way I would use that if you have the convenience of planning and timing some of your ritualistic work. Yeah. But if not, no. You also need to have the ability to do whatever it is you need to do on the fly at any given moment. That's what chaos magic is about, right? There might come a time where a critical situation comes up where you might have to go to work on something or somebody, or you really a critical, urgent situation that needs your attention at the moment. You're not going to go to a book and go, oh, let me see what the astrological sign is. Oh, I can't do the ritual now because the moon is waning and it needs to be waxing. That's stupidity. That's reprogramming yourself and now leaving one religion but programming your mind with another religion. I personally don't fuck with none of that stuff. I don't do any of that banishing shit. That's all religious shit. I don't mess with none of that stuff. Now, if you do it and it works for you, I can only tell you what I do. I'm not saying, and I'm speaking in general, not just the next question. I can only tell you what I do and works for me. So I mean, I can't speak for what others do, right? If you do banishing and that type of stuff and you feel good about it and it works for you, power to you, knock yourself out. I don't fuck with none of that stuff. To me, it's pointless. I don't get anything out of it. I just think it's watered down new age occult shit. None of that stuff. If you're really working this dark energy, dark magic, you don't want to destroy any energy. You want to be able to absorb all of it. And then the key, as I've said this many times before, the key as a black magician is knowing how to facilitate those energies, the who, when, why, where, and how. Because some of those energies are very intense and you got to know when to use them. See, that's where the discipline comes in. So it's easy just to say, I don't want to fuck with that. Let me banish it. Because what are you saying to yourself subconsciously when you're banishing something? You are saying there's something external out there that can do you harm. If you're not, then why are you banishing? That's all I'm asking. What is it you're banishing? And if you say some dumbass shit like evil forces, you ain't no dark ass magician. That doesn't make any sense to me. So you are still religious. you still have a subconscious fear that there's something that can harm you. See, there's nothing that I accept can harm me unless I allow my mind to accept it. And I don't believe in destroying any of energy. Now, I do believe in creating a sacred circle, or for an example, as they say, casting the hermetic circle, but that's trapping all the energy in, keeping it locked in your personal space. When you cast that hermetic circle and you close the above and below, you're keeping all that energy locked within your space. So now you, as the magician, and say you're using, if you have a dagger or some type of sacred implement that you use to cast your circle, you're facilitating it now and controlling that energy. And when one does that, it's different, because when you're doing that, it's like creating a universe within a universe. And when you're locked in that space, you're able to tap into all of those different energies, frequencies, and vibrations. And depending on the ritualistic work you are doing, that's when the awareness is incited within you. Do I need to tap into some rage? Let me pull from rage, because it's all within your universe, right? You're the center. You're the Occult, right? As they say in mysticism. So maybe I need some rage. Maybe I need some healing. Maybe I need some love. Maybe I need some compassion. If I'm banishing, how can I access all those different energies if I'm removing them? I want all that there. I want the rage. I want the chaos. I want the anger. I want the warrior aspect. I want the harmony, the peace, the love, the unity. I want all that shit simultaneously, because I don't know what the fuck's about to go down, because I may need 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 of them in order to be successful at the work that I'm doing. See, that's the difference between a chaos magician, a black magician, somebody that's mastering their chaos, than somebody that wants to be a fluffinator. Okay, and I'm not going to sugarcoat the shit for people no more. If you want to be a fluffinator and play watered down occult, then be new age. I don't fuck with none of that shit. Don't email me about any of that bullshit. 9 out of 10 times, I'm not even going to respond. I get emails about it. Do you see me talking about banishing anywhere? Do you see me talking about working with angels and shit like that? I don't do none of that stuff. So again, I can't really address that, because I fucked with it back in the past or read about it. I didn't get nothing out of it. It does absolutely nothing for me. So I can't really help or assist in that area. And I don't really care to. This is about tapping into that raw, primordial, chaotic energy. Okay? But knowing how to create the harmony. There are lighter energies to work with within that spectrum. You need to create, everybody has a certain level of harmony that they need to create for themselves. But when you go on a tangent to one way or the other, that's where the disconnect comes. So people either become too fluffy and they want to be very new age occulty, and then you got people that go to the extreme with the dark stuff too. Everything is dark, doom, and gloom, and they're so dark this and dark that, and I'm so, look, that's why I like to call it the path to self-mastery, because it includes both, working with both aspects of those energies, but knowing it has its point in origin in the darkness, in the raw, primordial, chaotic energy. That's the difference. So that's first and foremost. That's the foundation. There's no escaping that. Okay? So when you start out on a fluffy path and you want to be new agey, and you want to fuck with astrology and on the new age aspect of it, and you want to worry about the astrological signs of the planets, and I need to do rituals during this time, and the moon goddess, and all that other watered down Wiccan new age bullshit, then be that. That's not what this is. Okay, be that. And don't go too extreme where hail Satan and I'm so satanic, and that's comical to me too. Okay, keep it real what it is. I mean, look, I ain't trying to offend nobody. I mean, I really couldn't give a shit if you were getting offended, because when I'm talking like this and I'm doing a freestyle, there's that demonic energy coming out through me. And I got to speak it as it is. I got to tell you what's on my mind. That shit's comical to me too. This path isn't about that. Hail Satan. We don't walk around hail Satan wearing black robes and, big ass pentagrams, because that shit is comical and ridiculous to me too. So it works. There's both sides. But the real person that's grounded in harmony is right in the center. Okay? Smack in the middle. They know when to
grab for some of that lighter energy, and they know when to grab for that raw, primordial, dark, chaotic energy. That's the difference, people. Now it's up to you to figure out the dose and the formula that you need on a regular basis. I can't do that for you. No one can. You're going to figure that out via your shadow work. If you're doing real shadow work, you'll see how fluffy you are. You'll see what you're avoiding and not trying to deal with. And then you'll also see what you're going to the extreme with. Let's keep it real. You'll see that if you're doing real shadow work. But if you're doing some constructed type of shadow work where you got some rigid formula that you're trying to follow to come to the conclusion of shit, you'll never understand. Okay? But anyway, Yvette, your question sparked other questions. Good questions. So hopefully that helped. All right, what else we got? All right, yeah. All right, so Angel is here. Again, if you just throw out there, for those that would like to get down with the Black Flame 11, contact info. Or maybe, Angel, you could even put your email in the chat. It's fucking internet shit. Bear with me, people who like internet cutting up. I don't know why it's this fucking computer, man. Hold on. It's back. We back. But yeah, you can reach out to Angel for information on that, okay? All right, what else we got? All right, people, this is your night, people. Questions. Questions, man. It's free for all. If I don't see no questions, I'm just going to cut it off. I ain't got time to waste. I want to know what's on your mind. Talk to me. Questions about the path, the work. I want to hear about the work people are doing. What kind of work you doing? You know, let's talk. All right, this ain't a fucking Mickey Mouse club, social club. It's not why I'm here to do this shit. All right, I'm gonna scroll down and see if any more questions. If not, I'm gonna put the phone. We'll put the phone number out there in a minute if somebody wants to call in. If I ain't seeing no questions, no phone calls, I'm just gonna cut it. Because I ain't going front. I got shit to do. All right, what else we got? Yeah, no, though. Yeah, I'm enjoying my turkey. Let me say this: if you came on late, fuck all those clowns that don't celebrate the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. I couldn't give a fuck. I'll be damned if I sit around talking about, yeah, man, you know, that's the holiday, that's the slave master. Listen, if your ass don't want to participate, you live in the United States of America. Whether you agree with the culture, the holidays, the lifestyle, whatever the fuck you want to call it, take your ass and move somewhere where you do with it. That's it. It's that simple. Because most of you clowns will be the first ones sitting down, grubbing on some turkey, some macaroni and cheese, etc. Let me make this clear. I said it last year, the year before. Go pull up videos this time of year. I celebrate all that shit. I enjoy it. It's a fun time of the year. I ain't into the religious aspect of it. I don't need to justify myself and be pro-righteous. Am I into all the religious Christianity aspect of it? Absolutely not. Look, you can take those holidays and use the occult aspect of it. You can take them holidays and make them out to be anything you want them to be. Okay? It's more to me the energy of the season. If you got strong family, friends, it's a great time of the year. I enjoy it. So I'm gonna be killing some motherfucking turkey. I'm gonna be watching some goddamn football. Actually hockey too, because they got a good hockey game on Thanksgiving Day. And I'm gonna be chilling the fuck out. I don't give a fuck who likes it, agrees with it. Don't email me about no pro-conscious shit. I don't want to hear no history that I couldn't give two flying shits. It's irrelevant to me. Don't care. Couldn't care. Doesn't even affect me. That's for those people that are stuck like Chuck in that nonsense. And again, they'd be the first people to sit down and grub, on some motherfucking turkey. I know I'll be. So, is what it is. So I want to tell you some funny ass shit somebody sent me. And I sent that shit right back and said, please don't send me this bullshit. Sent me an email. And it's like, I'm not gonna waste my time with it. But yeah, enjoy your holidays. Spend time with the family. And don't front. You might be on some conscious path, but not everybody else in your family is. So what? Does that make you less of a person because your family is having a holiday get together? Well, you too fucking cool, and you got that's where your ego can fucking burn you, because you too cool that you can't go and just chill and vibe with your family and put that shit to the side. Is it that deep? Who cares? Shit. I'll tell you what, as soon as Thanksgiving's over, Christmas decorations is coming out, about to put up big ass crib. You guys seen the video last year? I'll film it again this year. Decorate the whole front, the whole fucking nine, and go all out. I don't even give a fuck. I couldn't give a shit who agrees with it or not. I don't want to hear none of that bullshit. Get over it. All right, what else we got? Yeah, dream work, yeah. Yeah, and that's cyber soul. Yeah, as I was speaking earlier, if you came in late, yeah, dream work. Let's talk about that real quick. And I've talked about this a lot on and off over the years. And maybe I'll do a whole video on that. It gives me an idea. As I said earlier, dreams are symbolic. There's many hidden symbols in your dreams. Only person that can truly decipher and decode that for you is yourself. You a dream book if you're a person that has a lot of these dreams, or even if you just have dreams occasionally. Because as I said before, you will find out. You might have a dream tonight, and then you might have another dream. I've seen this happen plenty of times with myself and others. You might have a dream a couple of months from now that connect to a dream you might have tonight that you didn't fully understand. And always pay attention to every vivid aspect of your dreams, colors. If you're in a room, whatever you can recollect that's in that room, people, persons, places, things, you should have a vivid account, because usually there's a telltale sign your subconscious mind is using those things or objects or symbols or colors to communicate something to your subconscious mind. And it's unlocking portions of the psyche that it can connect with. That's why sometimes people say, I had a dream, it didn't make no sense. It's not that it didn't make sense. It's just you didn't really take the time to stop and think about it. So you should definitely, keep a log if you're a person that deals with that. Now, dream work, in addition to just your random dreams, I like, one of the aspects I like to use with dream work is via sigils. All right. Basic visualizations, inner mantras silently to the self while you're getting ready to fall asleep. A great way to unlock, for an example, let me give you a basic example. And I think I mentioned this once or twice before in the past. Let's say you want to connect with a specific god or a goddess, or archetype, whatever you want to call it. All right. Let's say it's Lilith or Lucifer or whoever. Draw the sigil, and right before you go to sleep, take at least 5 minutes or so to just intently gaze upon the sigil and get the image of the sigil locked in your mind. If you want to add a mantra or a chant to it for a few minutes before, that's fine. And just capture in your mind's eye that sigil. And then lay flat on your back. And the reason why I say it's good to try to fall asleep laying flat on your back, because remember, all the chakras are aligned when you're laying flat on your back. 9 out of 10 times, most people have their dreams when they're laying flat on their back. Now ask yourself the reason why. That's the reason why. When the biorhythm, when the chakras are aligned, and when the body falls into an alpha state, and when your body starts to vibrate at the same biorhythm of the planet, this is when you have the ability to astral travel or have a OBE, out of body experience, because you're vibrating at the same frequency of the planet, the same megahertz, which I believe is 8 or 9, I can't remember. That's what the Om chant is about. If you know how to utilize the Om chant in its correct capacity, what that basically can do is increase the intensity of the frequency and the vibration, which one can become less dense by the frequency and the vibration. And one is now able to start, per se, to astrally travel, to levitate, to leave the body, etc. So usually you'll see that'll happen when an individual is laying flat on their back, right? Lock the image of the sigil in your mind and fall asleep, just gazing in your mind's eye on that sigil. How that works is, how that usually works is the sigil literally is like it opens up a porthole to the abode of that particular god or goddess, which you'll find yourself getting sucked into that realm. I'm just using that term symbolically.
And then you have your experiences. This is a great way, or one of many aspects to work with dreams. Another good aspect I talked about before, if you want to enhance your dreams or try to stir up to have some of these experiences via your dreams. One thing I've always suggested to people, for an example, Ample. Get a statue of Ample and keep it by your nightstand. And a great thing is do a brief meditation on Ample, gazing at the image of the statue. Some even like to, put a black candle there if you can. Obviously be careful you don't fall asleep with flame. And just a brief meditation to Ample, who is a gateway, who is the connector from this realm to that realm. And do a simple invocation before you hit the bed. Invoke the power of Ample to communicate what is to be communicated to you spiritually via your dreams. It's like a 3-4 minute thing you can do before you go to bed. It's just a couple of things, These are things you can do to enhance, your communication with the spirit world, for lack of a better word. That's a very effective tool. I've used that many times over the years. Very effective. Quick, right? Here's another thing I like to do. When we do ritualistic work, do this, trust me when I tell you. If you do something like I just described with Ample, before you go to sleep, just like when we told the bell 9 times to open the gates, tap your pillow 9 times. Trust me when I tell you. Just tap it 9 times and ask for the realm of the abode in darkness and the eternal abyss to be open to you. And whatever communication needs to be communicated, you are open and receptive to it. Trust me when I tell you. All these little things activate. What you're doing is reprogramming the psyche. Just how you were programmed and indoctrinated with religion and other bullshit from the time you came out of your mother's womb, this is the same way. But you're doing a reprogramming. You're fixing it. Except this time you're programming yourself with the correct things. This is how they did it, because they did it. They started at a very, very early point in your life. And as you kept getting older and going through certain stages, they did it stage by stage. Well, you do the same thing. We call this deconstruction and reconstruction. So you're reconstructing everything. You're destroying it first or deconstructing it before you do it. But those are a couple of examples of ways, without staying on it overly long. Those are some great ways you can work via the dream world or the dream realm, all right? All right, so here's a question from Blade of Astereth. Let me see what we got here. All right, he asks, Blade asks that, what kind of advice can be given to people who started working with the left-hand path within a group of seemingly committed individuals, only for the group to crumble because people can't handle real work? All right, well, here's the thing. You're going to find that a lot with groups, all right? I can attest to this over my many years in doing this. I've been involved with so many different projects over the years, and I can relate to this question. I've been a part of, we've had occult bookstores, we've rented space out, commercial property, and handcrafted temples, painting it, designing it, doing rituals there. The last spot I had, and I'm going to tell you why I'm telling you this. This was the last time I got heavily internally involved with the group. We had a facility that was a temple. We had a bookstore, and we had a classroom. So we were doing classes there, workshops. We were selling products. And then we had a whole temple that we designed and literally built and created ourselves, which was great. But you're going to find the problem when you start working within a group. Sometimes this happens when you're working with people. Some people tend to start tapping in and they just evolve a little further. And as you said, some can't handle the real work, so it creates some friction. It creates some separation. It creates a different perspective, and usually can cause conflict amongst the individuals, or sometimes those people that can't handle the work and they go back to doing what they were doing. There's not really much you can do about it in a group setting, but just be aware. And I say to be aware because that's going to dictate to you how you need to move. That could be to make changes, or that could be me just moving completely away from that circle or group of people. But that's just the nature of human beings. Happen. It's unavoidable. Now, I've learned, again, I can only speak on my own experiences. I've learned after my past experiences with it and not really wanting to deal with that bullshit, drama, and nonsense, I do what I keep a very selective circle. I've learned from my past lessons. I don't try to keep it too big because I'm not really into that I need a whole huge crew. I don't really like to be part of those type of groups anymore. So I found as I've gotten older, and I don't know how old you are, I like to keep my circle very selective. That can eliminate a lot of that bullshit that you're talking about. But in general, it's unavoidable. It's going to happen in groups, regardless. But these are the telltale reasons why these things happen, right? They're going to happen. All I can tell you is the more selective you become, you will eventually find the right niche or group. And I'm a firm believer in when you're on this path, you should experience both aspects, right? Obviously, your core work comes in your personal work that you do by yourself. But I've always suggested you should have some type of exposure, and again, as much as you need or as little as you need, to a group type setting because it's a different energy. When you're in a group setting, whether it's discussions or classes or a ritualistic setting, it's a different vibration and energy. And I've always said strongly over the years, I think people should experience both on some level. All right. I just believe it's very important and critical. But yes, that's the best thing I can tell you. A good way for them to move forward on their own, they're going to have to learn from their mistakes. It's nothing you per se can really tell them you can. Doesn't mean they're going to listen or do it. I mean, the only thing you can do, helping them move forward, you can share, as long as you have experience in what you're sharing, maybe from your mistakes or from your understanding and wisdom, you can share some of those examples with them. Maybe they use it, they don't. But in essence, they're going to have to learn from their mistakes, their fuck-ups. The only way they can move forward on their own is if they're really doing work. Then they'll have the awareness of how to move forward. Now, if they're lost, confused, that's maybe where you can step in by your example and some of your wisdom and your knowledge and your understanding based on your experience. That's where that might come into play. But really, in essence, they're going to have to find their own way. And in finding their own way, they're going to fuck up. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to go through some serious shit. So that's the best thing I can tell you on that. All right, so question by Rashawn. What's up, brother? I'm not sure if you were on early, maybe you came on late, but I'll address it again real quick. But let me read the question. What's your thoughts of working with angels and demons? Could one looking to progress on the left-hand path actually regress/face conflicts in the psyche by continuing to work with angels? Well, yes and no. It's your approach. For an example, Samael is an angel of death. I work with that, right? Now, there's different aspects in lighter, fluffier stuff. You'll hear people talk about, for an example, aspects of the Archangel Michael or Raphael or Gabriel. My question now, there's different personifications of those angels and archangels and demons, right? Some personify in a more darker, intense energy in certain paths. And they're synchronized with other archetypes on certain paths, okay? But if you're working with it from this Hebrew mysticism, Kabbalah aspect of it, which is really nothing but Hebrew mysticism, yes, that part can be damaging. It can create conflict in your understanding of this path. That's what I mean when I say it can be damaging, because you got to be careful, because you're invoking one thing that's carrying a certain vibration, frequency, and energy. You could be mixing it with another, and that's totally the opposite. And what that could possibly do is create a disconnect in here, an imbalance within here that can put you in not in a sound mind. So yes, it can affect you in that way, and your understanding can be all over the place. You understand? So if you're working with, let's say, how New Agers, I'm going to use that as an example. You have New Agers that work with angels. So let me put it to you this way. And New Agers work with a very New Age light path of archangels and guardian angels. And if you're working with it in that way, I would suggest no, wouldn't fuck with it. Now, there's an aspect of very intense, for an example, let's say in the 21 divisions, San Miguel. There's a very aggressive warrior viral aspect of San Miguel or Saint Michael when in African witchcraft and black magic. So that's different. So if you're working with that aspect, that's an entirely different thing. But if you're working with that New Age fluffy shit and banishing and I'm invoking my guardian angel, nah, we don't fuck with that. I'd suggest, my suggestion, if you're on this path, what that's going to do is hinder your understanding of what this path is about. It's going to create more mental conflict. It's going to keep you conflicted. You're going to find you're getting pulled in two directions, and then sometimes you get filled with the emotion of guilt because you're fucking with the fluffy shit. And then sometimes you feel guilty for working with the dark shit because it's your subconscious devotion to that fluffy shit. And it goes to show you how deep the spell of religion has really been enforced upon us. And the indoctrination of it is, if you're getting that guilt. I'm not saying you are, Sean, I'm just speaking in general. I wouldn't recommend it. And again, I can only tell you from my experiences, not because I'm just saying it on the surface, because I was fucking with those things years back. So I'm speaking from experience. And they didn't do anything. Okay. And when I look back on it now and what I know, I found out that was just a higher form of religion. And it's called New Age. That's all that shit is. Okay? That's all it is. And there's a lot of people, again, it's my opinion, who are in this occult or in the cult community or left-hand path or whatever, that claim to be they're dark magicians and they're this and that. And then they're talking about this nonsense. I just don't see the connection. So you must ask a person. Everybody's definition of a cult is different, and that's why I've talked about that many times. Ask somebody, what is your definition of the occult? Because somebody says that they're in the occult, ask them, well, what's their, just like my perspective of occult may not be in line or the same as others. I really don't give a shit, but I'm just saying for listeners, they need to know that. Because somebody says they're a cult, they could be very watered down occult. They could be because I see a lot of New Age people who call themselves a cult, and in my opinion, they're not a cult. They're just basically taking New Age concepts and mixing it in with existing shit. So, long story short, brother, I'd be careful of what perspective I used if I'm utilizing that type of work. But we work with it because shit, like I say, Samael is the angel of death. I just finished a beautiful, let me tell you something, man. And I know I did 1 or 2 videos on that. I just finished a week-long work with Samael, the angel of death. And it's the most beautiful, let me tell you something, man. If you want to experience all those energies and emotions that I talked about, Samael embodies joy, happiness, sadness, depression, utter destruction, viral warrior energy, sexuality, divine love, compassion, sorrow. If you really want to understand the mysteries of death, the only way I can put it into words, it's hard to put it into words of what I experienced working with that. When you want to experience, this is truly, truly, when we say angel of death, we're not talking about something morbid, something on the surface that sounds based on programming negative. We're talking about killing those things about ourselves that we need to kill, destroy, in order to really understand ourselves. So death goes beyond the physical. We're also talking about mental and emotional and spiritual deaths. And in my work with Samael that I just finished up, I came to a higher level of understanding of that prior to what I thought I knew. Okay. And it's very humbling, number one. It's moving, and it was very emotional for me because I tapped into certain aspects of my emotions that I didn't even really realize were there. Or I should say, maybe I did realize they were there, but I was suppressing them. Doing work along that lines with those type of, again, I can only share with you what I work with. I don't fuck with none of that Archangel Michael stuff and Raphael and Gabriel. To me, that's all religion. That's the best way I can tell you. I don't know any other way to tell you. And again, I'm not going to lie to you. I really couldn't care to really break it down any other way because it doesn't mean anything to me. And I'd be lying here if I said it did. I wouldn't sit here and lie to you and say I do that type of stuff. I don't. I don't do banishing. I don't work with archangels. I don't really care to. That's the best way I can put it. But it's a good question, Rashawn. So, and I think I know because I think we've had discussions, or you brought this up before. So what's your approach? Would you like to call in? Huh? Would you like the phone number? All right. I'm going to put the phone number in a second. All right. I still see questions coming, which is good. So I'll keep going through this. All right. If chaos energy changes and keeps moving, are all those books and opinions still relevant? Yes and no. The books and the opinions are only as irrelevant as you make it, because everybody's path is different. Everybody's journey. Yeah, again, as I've said many times before, are there going to be some similarities as a whole? Yes. You might see some similarities with your journey and others, but your journey is unique. Never compare your journey, number one, to anybody else's, because everybody's going through different life experiences. Now, as far as books, systems, and opinions, it's up to you as the master to decipher from those books and systems what you can utilize and apply, and whatever doesn't apply, you just don't utilize it. Remember, those are just guides and roadmaps, right? I've said many times over the years, for books, for an example, right? When you're reading in a book on the occult or the left-hand path, if, let's say you go into a book and there's a ritual that the author wrote, I've always said from day one, you should change and alter that ritual and put your personal touch on it. Because you shouldn't do it exactly the way it's in there, because that was constructed personally by that individual for a specific reason. Now, even if the ritual is geared for a specific thing or a specific type of working, that's fine, but you should still put your own personal touch on it. So the books, the energy is always going to be changing, because anything that doesn't change is dead. You're constantly going to be changing and evolving. Because let me give you an example. You might have read a book, let's say on sorcery, right? And maybe at the time it appeared to be a very deep, heavy book to you, and it was more beginner level. But as you evolve and change, now you don't look at that book the same way. You don't perceive it the same way. It doesn't mean the same thing, because your understanding and your knowledge and your wisdom has evolved and changed. So the books and the opinions and the systems, they're only as relevant as you make them. And I say only as relevant as you make them because you're going to decide what you're going to take and utilize. That's the stuff that's going to be relevant to you. And then the stuff that you don't resonate with or doesn't really, do anything for you, you just toss it to the side. So that's the best way to approach that. But that's a good question. All right. Okay. Good. Okay. It's a poor banging. Hey. Made it. Glad to see you made it. All right, Days Rod, brother B. Oh yeah, I try my best to keep it real, as they say on the streets. Keeps get real. Let me stop. All right, what else we got? All right. Oh, this is good. By Raven Heck. In relation to Yvette's question, explain why we should be practicing antinomian. And that's important on the left-hand path. That's a good question. It will also cover mythological gods and spirits. Let's get the definition of that. Let's go to the Google definition. Now, I can never say the word right. Antinomian or antinomianism is very important on this path. It is a system that we do practice, but just again, so we're clear, maybe we have newer listeners, listeners. Let's go, and if you're online, you have access to your computer. Let's go to the biblical computer book. All right, Wikipedia, or as I like to call it, Wikipedia. Here's the definition, the basic definition. Now, there's more to it. We'll just use the basic. Antinomianism is any view which rejects laws or legalism and argues against moral, religious, or social norms. I'm going to stop there. That's what this path is about, and that's why we use this concept. It's a Greek term. Let's establish that. It's a Greek word. Antinomian. Sorry, I can't pronounce this shit. It's like I got fucking tongue-tied. That's when you hear us always talking about not being a conformist, not being confound to any specific dogma, philosophy, or religions. And like earlier with Yvette's question, this would be applying using this concept of antinomian. We don't go by any specific construct. We're not obligated to oblige to any specific construct other than the ones that we create for ourselves, right? Really, antinomianism is a form of self-deification. It connects because if you apply the concept of it, it's basically giving you the outline of how to create your self-path of mastery, right? Now, here's another, we'll come down here. What does it mean? One who holds that under the gospel dispensation of grace, the moral law is of no use or obligation because faith alone is necessary to salvation. This is personal faith. This is another definition of it. Now, I said before on this path, do we have faith? Yes. Not faith in nonsensical beliefs, but faith in ourselves. Okay? So, yeah, you should, research that concept because when you understand or apply antinomianism, you're basically removing yourself from all conformist way of thinking. And we got to get out of that conformist way of thinking. There's not one particular way or right way. Like when somebody says you should do this way and this way only, that's a bunch of bullshit. So it doesn't matter if you're working rituals, candle magic, is not the tell-all be-all that you must do it in 100% accordance with the astrological signs and the phases of the moon. That's religion. Because like I said, there comes situations that arise where you got to do magic on the fly. You ain't got time to check the positioning of the sun and the moon and the astrological sign. You got a situation that need to be dealt with in the now. What you gonna do? Put it off because the moon phase isn't right? That's fucking religion. If you're a real god or goddess, you control the phases of the moon and the sun. Yeah, no, that might have went over some people's head. You might not be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Those that know what the hell I'm talking about. If you are a god or a goddess, you control those things. They don't control you. So that's the best way to look at that. All right, what else we got? Wait, there's more. Tad nigga there. Why he was funny. All right, what else we got? Question by Lanier Ari. Can you self-initiate at any time? Yes. Self-initiation is one of the most powerful forms of initiation. And it depends on what you're initiating yourself into. Now, yeah, you might be working with certain archetypes that tell you to do this at this time. Again, you got to remove yourself from those paradigms. Remember, did the video last week. Are you still stuck in constructed paradigms? Ask yourself this. All right. If you're reading a book on a self-initiation for Legba, and I'm about to drop a video on Legba as a mask of Lucifer, that's going to fucking just squash all that Aoife bullshit. That's a whole nother story for another time. If the book says, oh, you should only do this at this time of the year, that date, etc., ask yourself, where did that start? If the author wrote that in the book, where did he get it from? And if he says he got it from this place, where did they get it from? You'll see, as you start to trace it back, it was a tradition that started. And this tradition just got passed down through long periods of time. And then it got passed on went from being a tradition to becoming some type of religious dogmatic law. You're going to find that out in 99% of it. But again, it goes back to the precept. If you are God and you possess the power of a functioning adept or magician, you can work magic any place, anytime. God can do anything, any place, anytime. Okay, and when I'm saying God, please, if you're a newcomer and you're religious, don't let your tongue hit the fucking ground. We're not talking about your mythological spook fairy tale God. That's not the type of God I mean. I'm talking about the God or the goddess who takes responsibility for their actions and who takes sole control of their destiny, their spiritual path. That's what I mean when I say God. I want to make that clear. Or goddess. Because if you're religious, or maybe you stumble across the recording or the upload of this video, and that's going to ruffle your feathers if you're religious, because you're looking at it from a religious perspective. I don't mean that type of God. That God doesn't exist. It's a mythological fairy tale. All right? So I want to make that clear. You're always in control. So yes, you can self-initiate at any time. All right. All right, so Angel put his email in there if you want to participate in the work that the Black Flame 11 is doing. Hit him up. Food manipulator. What if no thoughts come from shadow work? That's something you're going to have to figure out. I couldn't answer that if I can. Again, when I'm doing shadow work, I can only connect with my thoughts. I do have thoughts that come via my shadow work. I do have communication and awareness that does come from my shadow work. Now, let's just throw some theories out there. If no thoughts are coming from shadow work, I'm just speculating. It could be a couple of different things. It could be maybe you're not tapping in correctly. Maybe you have blockages, or maybe there's things going on the deepest subconscious level that's preventing that from happening. It could be any of those things. Like, that's something you're going to have to draw the conclusions. Maybe there's nothing there that's affecting you. Maybe, I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but maybe you're just 100% perfect and I don't know. I really couldn't answer. I'm not saying, I don't know if you're saying you don't have any thoughts from it, but if it's somebody that isn't, or somebody I really couldn't answer that. That's something they're going to have to come to the realization of why they're not getting any thoughts. I can only, again, when I do my shadow work, I do have an influx of thoughts. I do have an influx of an awareness. I do receive spiritual messages, as one would say, from the spiritual abode. I am connected to a higher understanding of myself as far as my strengths and my weaknesses. All that comes through clear when I do my shadow work, and I am embracing it, and I do the best of my ability to address what needs to be addressed. But as far as if you're not getting any type of thoughts, it could be for those aforementioned reasons that I just mentioned. Not saying that's what it is. Sometimes it is something as simple as just not being able to focus or concentrate. Sometimes there could be a blockage there subconsciously that you're just not aware of, and it's not allowing you to tap in. Some people just can't get their mind to be still and be quiet. And I've always said, sometimes the best thing to do is sit in silence with nothing, no music, no sound, no nothing. And you'll see how the mind will either struggle to focus and concentrate, or you'll be all over the place. That shows you or brings the awareness of what could partially be part of the issue, right? It's good to still the mind and sometimes just sit in utter silence and darkness and do nothing, because then you're able to listen to the voices that you need to listen to, advisors or voices, as I like to call them. And you'll know which ones are giving you the right. When I say which ones, it's really your mind speaking. And I've always tested this theory because I've found when we've done work in group settings sometimes, some people can't sit in the darkness still and disciplined. Because when you're in that darkness and that utter silence, there's no incense, there's no candles, there's no music. It's just you and utter darkness, to the point where it's so quiet and dark, you can hear your breathing, your inner breathing in and out. People fear that and they get spooked out, or the boogeyman. They feel like I get I felt a presence in the room. Well, that was the real you emerging from yourself. I love when people tell me that if you've taken my class, I've given you a ritual how to tap into your real self. Okay, and I get feedback on that ritual all the time. I felt something standing behind me. I felt the room got real cold, and I saw this real dark, shadowy figure. Yeah, you did see all that shit, and that was you. Some people either punk out or they stay in the ritual. What starts to happen is, if you understand what demonic integration is, think about when you were a kid. Ask yourself this, we all experienced this when we were kids. Ask yourself this. And you were either playing around, or you were playing hide and go seek, or you were just hiding in a dark room, or you were in a dark room, right? Think how when you were a kid, we all spooked ourselves out 1 or 2 times when we were kids, where you felt like you were in a dark room. Then as it got quiet and eerie, you started getting we like to call it the heebie-jeebies. You felt like there was something or somebody in the room. Well, that was you, right? That the real you starts to emerge. When you're alone with your thoughts, the real demonic self starts to incarnate. You confuse it for being the boogeyman. You think it's some external entity that's there to harm you. It's not. It's you. And this is why most people are uncomfortable in the dark. This is why some people can't sleep without some form of a light on. There's people that have to sleep all hours of the night with a radio or a TV on. They can't be in utter silence and darkness. That's because they have a disturbed spirit. There's something they're running from. There's an insecurity or a fear they're not addressing, because they don't want to be alone in the darkness. Why? Because they're going to be alone with their thoughts. Why? Because the real them will start to emerge. And they may not like what they tap into, because they might find out there's some fucked up shit they got about themselves. That's the reality, people. But it's a good question, food manipulator. I wish I could give you a better answer, but there's not really a specific answer for that question. That's a case-by-case basis. Now, if that's you struggling with that, or somebody you know, it could be any of those concepts. So hopefully that gives you or pushes you in the right direction. All right. What else we got? That's a good point here. Days Rob, the real shadow work. A friend was asking me how she should start. I said, as a ritual, she should start writing. Yeah, writing is a good form of that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, writing your thoughts. I mean, creative writing. It's why we keep journals. Writing. Yeah, that's definitely a good tool. I found it's funny when it comes to writing or journals, or just the thing of journal. You're gonna find out. Here's the deep thing. This is kind of where I'm at now. I kind of have a journal and I don't. This is my journal right here. I'm very good at storing things here, and just a certain thought, once it's triggered, this is like a supercomputer to me. It's the best way I can describe it. You're going to find, as you become more experienced with your work, you are keeping a journal, but it's a mental journal. I always suggest, for as long as you feel the need be, you should document as much as you can on your journey. Now, when I say I partially keep a journal, now I just keep kind of dates and key aspects of certain things that I've done. But the real intense stuff it's in here. So I keep a log of those things in my journal. Whereas before I might have went extreme. But when we really say all is mental, mental is all, the universe is mental. When you're connected on that level, that's a whole, it opens up a whole another avenue or gateway or perspective. But you'll start to be able to keep the journal right here, and you don't forget anything. Certain things trigger, and when you need to access it, it's as simple as just calming yourself for a second, boom, formulating the thought, and there, bam, it's there. It's the best way I can describe it. Lucifer Morningstar, any good tips on working with the Kundalini energy in terms of raising the energy? I would suggest there's a great book by the Temple of the Ascended Flame, Asenath Mason, the Draconian Ritual book. And the Rites of Lucifer. There are exercises in there to raise the Kundalini or the Apep energy. Another good exercise, the Necro-Minion book by Michael W. Ford, which is actually the works of Charles Pace. There are specific rituals for working with the Apep or the Kundalini energy in that particular book. But let me give you an example. There's a Lucifer or dragon chakra meditation that you can use, and you can visualize a coiled serpent at your root chakra, and visualize that coiled serpent working its way up from its root, turning counterclockwise, spiraling it up, and work it from the root chakra all the way up to the crown, through all the chakras, through the solar plexus, the heart, all the way up to the throat chakra, etc., to the pineal. Out, visualize that coiled serpent going counterclockwise. You can also add the visualizations of colors to it, flames, and you'll be surprised how that raises that Kundalini serpent or a pep energy. Basic visualization or exercises like that. Now, obviously, there's certain rituals and archetypes you can work that assist in that. There's certain invocations one can do. Set is a great archetype in the Typhonian aspect because he deals with that intense Apep chaotic energy, because remember, he has a connection to Apep and the serpent energy. So yeah, there's many things one can do, but that simple exercise that I just threw out there, but I would do further research in those areas that I just aforementioned, and for other people that are listening, that would be my suggestion. But there's many things you can do in Luciferianism. It's funny because there's also, I would check out Richard K. Page's book. Which one is it? Damn, the first one. Fuck. Is it Luciferian Ego Sum, or yeah, I think it's Lucifer Ego Sum. I think it's his first book. He's got a ritual in the back of that book dealing with chakras and how to raise that energy. That's another good example. Now, again, I would suggest I kind of created that serpent meditation based on my research. But gather your information, and then you can create something that works from you. So as I did research over the years, that was one little simple exercise I came up with on the fly that works very effective. So those are good areas of interest to get you motivated, but obviously come up and create something that you customize or personalize for yourself. All right. Sister Sabrina. All right. Good to see you here. Can you harness energy via the dream realm / astral realm? Yes, you can. Most definitely. All right. Second part of the question. I often experience sucking up and drawing energy during lucid dreaming that I can feel physically, but I'm not sure if I see the results. Well, I would ask you, make sure there's nothing feeding off of you. I don't know if you tap into any incubi, succubi, or anything like that. Because remember, you're tapping into raw prana energy when you're connecting the dream realm or the astral realm, and not everything you encounter there quote unquote is positive, because you're going to also encounter every aspect of yourself there, your fears, your joys, your happiness, and your sadness. And you could be connecting obviously with archetypes and experiences, with them. But the key thing to really be conscious of here, when you're harnessing energy, and as you're saying, sucking up and drawing energy, remember there is this giving and receiving going on simultaneously. Now, if you're saying you're not sure if you see the results, you may not be conscious that more is being taken from you than you're aware of. So I would really look back and reflect, and maybe there's something you can take note of that's happening in them experiences, that when it happens again, it's something that might be needed to be corrected, as far as what maybe I'd more so say what's being drawn from you, right? You may not be aware of what that is, and you may think on the surface, well, it's nothing, but it's something, especially if you're describing it that way. But most definitely, you can definitely harness energy from the dream realm / or the astral realm, no doubt. Jay Jizzle. Excuse me, people. Sorry. Wait, did I fuck that up? Monday to a Wednesday? You sure? Let me check that date, man. Did I fuck that up? Hold on. Let's see. I don't know if that's right. Let me correct that. Hold on. Make sure it could be, but that's weird if that is. But let me see. Could be because of the way the days fall. You might be right. Hold on. October. All right, you are right. I stand corrected. All right, scratch those dates. That's because there's 5 weeks in the month of November in 2020. That's the problem. All right, so, you know what? This works out even better, people. Guess what? Halloween is on a Saturday next year. So I stand corrected, because this is going to work out even better, because there are 5 weekends next year in October. And thank you, Tanisha, for pointing that out. Scratch them dates I've been pumping the last 2 weeks. They're completely wrong. That's completely my error. The Black Adept Conference next year will not be on the 26th to the 28th. I stand corrected. Tanisha is right. It is a Monday to a Wednesday. And the beauty of it is, since Halloween falls on a Saturday this year, this is off the chain. It's perfect. And that's because there must be, is this a leap year? Hold on. These motherfuckers just create. Yeah, that's what it is. And it's also a leap year. So the days because there's 5 weeks in October, and because, they mythologically just grabbed another 24 hours and threw it in this year, because this is a leap year. There's 29 days in February. Again, thank you, Tanisha, for pointing that out. So let me get the correct dates next year. It's going to be beautiful. Satanic Sabbath on the 31st. That's going to be our powerful ritual night. It's going to work out beautiful. So I stand to be corrected, peoples. And November 1st is All Souls Day. So we can do Day of the Dead. Oh, man, this is perfect. This works out beautiful. So I stand to be corrected. The Black Adept Conference will be October 30th to November 1st. Okay? Let's get that corrected date. November 30th. I'm sorry, geez, I'm fucking it up again. October 30th to November 1st. So we will do it Friday the 30th, Saturday the 31st. That's going to be off the chain. And then Sunday, November 1st will be the final day. This works out beautiful. All right, so I stand corrected. Program those dates in, people, for Journey of the Black Adept Conference number 3. It will be October 30th to November 1st. That's the last weekend in October. That'll be Halloween weekend, All Souls Day weekend. I think what we might even do is go into a mass and steal the mass on All Souls Day on the 1st. It's giving me some creative ideas. But we'll talk about that down the line. So again, stand to be corrected, October 30th to November 1st next year. October 30th to November 1st. Pay no attention to the 26th to the 28th. All right, so I appreciate that correction. All right. All right, Duma asks, what's a good protection ritual for yourself and loved ones? All right, so we have to be careful when we're saying, I'm not sure. I would have to ask this question, Duma, protection from what? If we're just saying to keep ourselves sound and in harmony, more as a maintenance thing, I get that. It's different if something specific is happening, then that's a whole nother process. So if you're just asking in general, if you go, let me give you a great example. There's rituals for protection, healing, and harmony. The Necrominion book, again, has a whole section in there. It basically casts the Hermetic Circle. Certain invocations that are done, some might incorporate chalice work, some might not. I would go into that book and work. There are specific energies or archetypes that you can connect with that. Now, it varies if there's something specific going on. The person was being wrongfully attacked, or whether it's spiritual or mental, or maybe they're in physical danger because of something that took place. That's a whole nother process. Then there's destructive rituals one would have to resort to take care of that. That's not something I would talk about openly in an open forum like this. We'd have to talk privately about that. So it just depends on, when I say from what, it depends on the situation or the scenario. Now, if it's just maintenance work to keep that energy in harmony, I would definitely look in that Necrominion book. But if it's for a specific reason, something happened or took place, that's all going to depend on exactly what the situation is. Then the process could change. All right. Okay. Again, all right, question from Yvette. All right. Not sure if this was addressed. Well, I kind of addressed it, but I'll go a little more. What are your thoughts on the different retrogrades? I'm not really into that again. Yeah, I know everybody gets in an uproar and their panties get all knotted up when Venus retrograde and Mercury and all this shit. And oh yeah, see, when you start accepting the construct, yeah, it's the Venus, the Mercury retrograde. It's very chaotic, and yeah, when you start embracing that and accepting that, of course it is. But guess who's giving it life and power? You are. Again, we have to look at the concept and the principle. You are the god, the goddess, the black magician. You are always in control. If you start accepting those constructs, okay, those paradigms, then you start to become a slave to them. So I don't really go by that as the tell-all be-all. Are there certain energies from, an astrological perspective that are connected to those things? Yes, but not to the point where you're at their mercy and they have complete control over you. So no, I don't really, again, if tomorrow I got to do a specific working or ritual for this, I don't look at any of that stuff. I don't care what the astrological sign is, what the retrograde is. And I don't even care if it says we shouldn't do work in the Scorpio energy, because the Scorpio energy is chaotic. And most New Agers or those type of books will tell you this is a time that you should just deal with peace and harmony, and not a good time to do work and work for intense change. Says who? If I'm God and I need to bring about change, I'm going to do it today, tomorrow. And maybe I like the Scorpio energy because it's chaotic. I'm a chaotic person. So maybe I like doing black and dark magic in a chaotic energy, in a Jupiter influence. Jupiter's very volatile energy. You shouldn't do anything. I don't care about none of that stuff. But these are good questions you're asking. But I don't, again, to me, it's not the tell all be all. And I know it's a fact because I've done work in those times that are recommended not to do work, and I get great results. So somebody explain that to me. That's all I want to know. So if you're a person that goes, oh, no, you shouldn't do that because of this and this retrograde that and this planetary sign that. Well, why, if I'm doing work in the times, signs, and energies you shouldn't, how the fuck is it I'm getting results? Explain that to me. That's all I want to know. And if you just don't know, just say you don't know. Or is it I've accepted the reality and I've really accepted it and I don't just say it with my tongue that I'm in control. Maybe that's what it is. Just that simple. You see, let's not make it, it's not as complex as people make it out to be. So, on a good question, Yvette, but yeah, I don't go by any of that stuff. I don't care. I don't care about the retrograde. I don't care about the planet in this, my astrological sign rising in that, my penis is rising over here, my balls are sagging over there. I don't care about any of that stuff. To me, that becomes very religious. It becomes a constructed paradigm because you become a slave to it. Your life starts. Some people, as I mentioned in last week's video, some people live their lives as slaves to that information. They let that control them. They govern their entire lives by it. That's how some people can get with that stuff. Look, I'm God. I do whatever needs to be done, when, where, why, and how. I don't care what time of day it is. I don't care about any of that stuff. If it needs to be done and I got to get it done, it's getting done. You best believe it's getting done. And I'm not worried about what the astrological sign is. I'm not worried about no retrograde because I'm in control of that. The retrograde don't control me. I control the motherfucking retrograde. It's that simple. And how I know I control the motherfucking retrograde because I've done work at times, again, where it's recommended in certain spiritual circles. You shouldn't do this at that time. You shouldn't do that. Well, I'm the type of person, I'm a chaotic being. If you tell me don't do it, you're motivating me to do it. That's the type of motherfucker you're talking to. Because I know whatever a person is hell-bent on telling you not to do, I'm going to do exactly what they're telling me not to do. Because I know that there's something that they're running from, fearing from, and usually what you're afraid of not doing, or what you're afraid of doing, there's usually some hidden science in that. I'm that type of motherfucker. If that biblical story was true, if don't eat from the forbidden fruit, I'm the motherfucker that's the first one that goes to the tree and eats from the fruit. Because I want to know. You understand? I don't go by none of that shit. That's what that story really represents. You know, that's what the serpent really represents. The wise serpent. Right? So again, along with the shit we was talking about earlier, the times and I wouldn't get too caught up in that retrograde stuff. Now, if you're into all that astrology and you govern your life by that and that's your thing, then that holds more weight, more importance to you. Because that's your thing, that's what you're into. But I don't deal with any of those constructed paradigms. I don't deal with any of that stuff. You know, it's personal. You know, if that's your thing, yeah, I understand. There's a certain aspect, element, and as I said earlier, if you can plan your rituals, and I'll do that sometimes because shit, even when you're working with some of the the 72 lords of darkness or the Goetia, yeah, it's recommended some of them are governed by astrological signs, and that just simply means that's when their power is more to invoke them during those astrological signs can just be added power. But does it mean that you should only do it during those times? Absolutely not. So it goes right hand in hand with what we discussed earlier. That's it. Ah, shit. Hey, hold on, people skip. All right, here we go. All right, Sugar TX, what's your advice for working with Papa Legba? Do you have to be initiated? Absolutely not. You only have to be initiated if you want to be in a traditional system. I'm telling you from somebody that went through that. I went through the whole Ifa, Palo. You know, you've heard me talk about it over the years. I left that shit alone almost 20 years now. Okay. If you feel in your mind, I'm just speaking in general, but it's a good question, Sugar T. If you feel in your mind that you're only going to get validation if you go through some traditional initiation process, then go through that so you have the experience. Is it necessary? Absolutely not. All right. You can do a self-initiation I'll give you an example, real simple. Okay. This is something I'll give you a little jewel here. I give this to some of my clients when Legba comes up. You could draw the sigil of Papa Legba, right? And you could draw this with the cascarilla, or you could take chalk. It's good to do this on concrete floor, or you can, if you can't do it on if you don't have access in your house to do it on some type of concrete surface, you can get a chalkboard. Draw the sigil of Papa Legba, and in the 4 quadrants, you want to put just plain black coffee in a white plain cup. Right quadrant, a clear glass with a sacred amulet in there. It could be an ankh. It could be any type of talisman that's sacred to you. At the bottom right quadrant, put a dish of mixed dish of candies. Left quadrant, you put some incense. Preferably, a good charcoal burn, good quality incense. Right at the bottom of the sigil, I would recommend one of those glass red and black candles. That's a combination mixed of both. And then you're going to need just some sea salt and water. Sprinkle the sigil right before you begin, just a little bit. After you sprinkle the sigil, light your incense. Put your incense in the left quadrant. Right on the to the right of it, put your candy offerings. And then make sure at the top you have, as I described on the right, the glass of water with your talisman in it, and another offering of coffee on the left upper quadrant. Whatever it is you're trying to, I like to say something, a gold Papa Legba 3 times. You should also have a maraca. And if there's something there, like for an example, you want an understanding of something, you can write it on parchment and then just cross it through the 4 points and place it down there in the middle. And then just say something to yourself I ask you, Papa Legba, to open the gates at higher states of consciousness, open all roads and pathways to higher levels of understanding. Create your own invocation, and that's your introduction. Now, obviously, if you want to go a little more extravagant, you could set your own personal Legba altar up with his own personal implements. That's fine too. Is it necessary? No, but if you want to enhance the ritual with a iconic statue or an image, that's entirely up to you. But yeah, that's one quick self-initiation of connecting with Legba. And that's something I don't know if I discussed it openly, but that's something that anybody can do. And then you'll start accessing the Legba energy. Remember, it's a gateway energy. So you're opening yourself up. Now, don't confuse Papa Legba. And again, really all Legba is another mask of Lucifer. As I said earlier in the video with that. It's not the same thing as a Legba. People confuse the two. They think it's the same thing. Are there similarities? Yes. Are they the same? Absolutely not. So make sure when you're familiar. But it's a great gateway energy, right? Some say Legba is a form of the devil, right? In certain circles, and it is a very Luciferian or Lucifer type of energy when you know how to connect with it. Look at the colors, red and I mean, it's right there, right in front of us. But yeah, not necessary to be initiated by a traditionalist unless that's your choice. All right. I think your question got broken up, Tanisha. You spoke about ample. That's Anubis, ample, and tapping the pill 6 or 9 times. Yeah, I was saying earlier, because when we do ritualistic work, we told the bell 9 times to open the gate. So I was saying, just do that before you lay down to sleep. And it's a symbolic gesture to the psyche to open the gates. You just tap the pill 9 times. That's what I was talking about. Keona Living Magic asks, when working with certain spirits is destructive, how do you control them? I'm maybe mistyped. I'm not understanding the question. when working with certain spirits is destructive, how do you control them? You don't have to retype that. Something. The way it's worded is not clear to me. All right. But yeah, do you feel that invoking draconian beings like Tiamat said should be drawn on for interactions with people in your daily life, or do you feel working with these beings should be kept in ritual only? It could be both. It just depends on the situation. That's entirely up to you. I would just make sure you're clear on the situation and how you're applying it. But it can be used for both. It's not just limited. Doesn't have to be limited in ritual only. Because for an example, now Tiamat, you got to be careful with. You don't want to just use that for any random mundane shit, because that could be a very volatile, powerful energy. But so can Set, especially the typhonic aspect. But remember, you can use Set for an example in an everyday daily life, because Set is the aspect that we want to tap into to make order out of our personal chaos. And that personal chaos could be something as so mundane as getting our to-do list done. Just think about how you have an X amount of time in a day to get certain things done. It can create a form of chaos, right? Where you need to get all these things done, and it appears you don't have the time. That's a great time to tap into the Set energy. You might be having struggles in your business or your career or your personal life that's creating a lot of personal chaos. So yes, it can be used in the everyday aspect of your life, and obviously most definitely within ritual. So no, it's not restricted to ritual only. It's something you should live, breathe, and embody. Remember I said earlier, the key with working this path is knowing how to tap into all of these energies, based on the who, what, when, where, why, and how. You got to be, that's part of why you study, train, and discipline. This is why you do the work. This is why you do shadow work, because you want to get that awareness. A lot of these questions that we're asking tonight comes through the awareness of the personal work that we do within ourselves. So no, it's definitely not restricted in ritual only. It's a good comment by Brother Jay Jizzle. Jack, having real control of your life is true leadership. Religion creates dependence on outer influences. Don't be afraid. Stand alone in the darkness. That's true. I don't even need to comment on that. And there's another good comment by VL's Corner, and kind of exactly what I was just saying a few minutes ago. Truth is, most of these traditions that are followed dogmatically because they were passed down exactly by different people at different times, they tend to contradict each other. Hence, that's why I don't follow tradition, and a lot of them do. I mean, shit. You can just look in Ifa houses, for example, right? In Ifa houses, right? People might be connecting with, let's say, working a certain path of one of the Orishis, for an example, but each house has their own opinion. One will say, don't do it like this. One says, do it like that. One says, oh, the way they're doing it is wrong. So there's a lot of contradiction. And the best way, as VL's Corner said, I leave it all alone. That's why, again, that was the purpose of last week's video. Leave all those constructive paradigms alone. Stop staying stuck in them. Stop acting, or embracing them. Okay? Sleeping. Stop embracing them as if, and I'm just speaking in general, not to anybody in particular. We don't need to look at those things anymore as the tell all be all. Leave them alone. I don't mess with none of that shit no more. I have no desire to. Did I miss them? All right. All right, so Rashawn asked a question. Recently, my daughter has been gravitating towards my Santa Muerte altar. This brought up the question, is it okay for family to work at the same altar, or should they construct their own? Well, one, how old is your daughter? I would ask. If she's younger, completely younger, a smaller child, yes, it's definitely okay. Because remember, it's genealogy, it's blood on blood. Now, as that relationship, say it grows and harnesses and starts to evolve on a more higher level or a stronger level, yeah, at some point she should set up something for herself. Now, she's extremely young. No, it's okay for the time being that she still can connect and work with at your altar. But when she becomes older and that connection is evolving and growing, there should be some point where she definitely sets up her own thing. And that when to do that, well, you'll know. It'll naturally, come. Good question from Angel. Are there initiation rituals for left hand path magical systems? And if so, do they differ from other magical paths? Yes, there are initiations. Yes, they do differ in various ways from other paths. Um, it depends again on the system. For an example, for those that came to the Journey of the Black Adept conference, they went through a form of initiatic type of ritual on the first night, Friday, which I'm sure differed from anything that they've been through. Now, are there some similarities? You might see some slight similarities with other systems because a lot of these things are connected, and some have gravitated from others, so that you might see some similarities, some connections, but they're not exactly the same. They definitely differ. All right, I'm just going to finish these questions, and then I'm gonna wrap it up. I don't want to stay on for longer than 2 hours. I might do this again. I kind of like just doing this freestyle, free fall. This is kind of productive, and the time goes by quick. So I'm gonna try to incorporate a few, try to do this a little more often. Yeah, and as Blade of Astaroth, that's a good book. The Draconian Ritual book that I mentioned earlier has a lot of some good initiations to start out with in there. That's a good reference point. Yeah, and that's a good point by Tanisha. I noticed when doing shadow work, you may need to complete the same work multiple times. Yeah, you're gonna find you might have to do that a lot with work. Sometimes you got to do it more than once. So that's a good point. So Doom, okay, so I guess that was to your question earlier, just general projection. Yeah. What I was talking about earlier, as far as protection, um, I would look into the sources that I mentioned earlier. That would be a good place to start. Yes, there's another good question from Angel. Are there direct correlations from the seven hermetic principles and the seven chakras? Yes. You actually can find books where people will make that correlation, and they'll show you how each principle kind of connects with each chakra. Really, you would look at, for an example, the crown chakra, and we'll use one. All is mental, mental is all. The universe is mental. That's the crown, right? And some might say the pineal, but it's actually the crown, because the pineal going into the crown, and when the crown chakra is activated, you're able to tap into a multitude of dimensions and multiverses, or the power of your subjective realm. So that's one point. Yes, you can go through all of them, and you can make some of your own correlations based on your own personal work. But is there a specific constructed correlation? Not really. Is there information out there in books, and these basically are correlations that people came to these conclusions based on their experiences. So yes, but that's a good question. The author of the Draconian Ritual book is Asenath Mason, Asenath, and Mason, last name Mason.
All right, take a few more of these and wrap it up. Okay, I see Blade typed it in. Okay. He's Cicerus. What's up, girl? It's German, son. All right. So Yvette says, thank you for the answer. I didn't want Rich Chris to control what it is I need to do. And you shouldn't. Most definitely you shouldn't. It's a bunch of bullshit. Again, there'll be people that are new agey that's going to tell you otherwise. And that's fine. That's their opinion. But all I got to say is this. You got to answer my question. I've done work at times that are recommended in those circles where they say you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that. It could do this and it could do that. And I've gotten some of the most profound and successful results in that period. So my question is, if it is the tell-all be-all, how was I able to bypass that and get results? Maybe it's because of how I'm projecting this. Okay. Well, I'm not maybe, I know. I'm just saying. So yeah, we got to get out of that way of thinking. It's only a reality if you accept it. All right, so Kieran the Living Magic asks, well, how do you control destructive spirits or energies? Well, you use them, very simple. If you're working with a destructive type of spirit or energy, step one is make sure you know as much information about that specific entity as far as their function and their purpose and what type of aspect of consciousness they represent. So if it's a warrior type of energy, like Sekhmet, which is a very destructive energy of spirit, and I'm just going to use that as an example. How I control it is I know Sekhmet can clear paths. It can she can remove obstacles and blockages. She can alleviate problems. She can destroy and annihilate enemies, right? That's how I can have command and control over it. How I can become a victim of it if I'm not sure of what I'm invoking and why. Then I open myself up and I'm susceptible now to shit that can go haywire. So it's not so much about controlling them, it's about commanding the energy. Okay? I would look at it along that line. Yeah, good question by Snow Import. Let me read this. And there might be others out there. I know I get a lot of clients that have this issue here. Snow Import says, I'm in a situation where I live with religious people in the same household, which makes it difficult to leave an altar up. Is there any way to fix this inconvenience? Yes. If you got to do rituals, have you a makeshift altar. Get you a little folding table. And I would anytime you just got to work rituals, set up and use the basic setup. Just put all your basic implements on there, your skull, your altar tile / pentagram, have your dagger, your working tools, and whatever icons or images there. Just set up a working altar, a temporary one. And when you're done working with it, just take it down. Remember, it's about your intent. You don't need to keep it up till you get into your own space, obviously, where you're in a living situation where you can have the liberty excuse me, and the freedom. I would just use a makeshift altar to do your ritual work and just don't leave it up. Take it down. There's many people I deal with, many clients I deal with over the years that have to do that because they either live with a roommate or they're living, up under somebody's rules, whether it's parents or family. And unfortunately, I always recommend don't stir the pot if you don't have to. You don't want to create no conflict. So I would just set up a portable, breakdown altar, get a little folding table, and just when you gotta do ritual work, set it up until you get yourself situated. Listen, man, this is a funny ass question here. All right, Midnight Wolfrain says, "What do you think about people that say they remove their chakras?" I think it's very subjective. My question is, how do we know they actually are removing them? I've heard the theories. I've heard people explain it or break it down. But my question is, how much of that is subjective as opposed to objective? And how can one really be shown, proven, and convinced? So if somebody says that to me, really, what can they do to really show and prove that to me other than some of the bullshit I just aforementioned? And I say this, with all due respect, Michigan Wolfrain. I don't really have much to say on it. One, honestly, I really couldn't care about it, to be honest with you. I would raise some questions when people say they remove their chakras. What's their goal? What's their intent? What's their purpose if that is the case? And I know they're going to say mundane shit like, oh, to go to a higher level spiritually, blah, 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 blah. So I really don't have much thoughts on it because it's not something I've ever really, went out of my way intently to try to decipher. But yeah, I've heard the theories on it though. It's German, son. Yeah, that was some funny ass shit. All right, what else we got? I think we're at the end, people. All right. Yeah, we at the end. All right. Listen, man, I did my 2 hours. I did my time. Okay, Midnight Wolf Aha. They say it's a control system having a chakra. Yeah, I mean, if it's a construct to them and it's removed in that sense, then yeah, I mean, I got no problem with that. And again, that's why I said it's subjective. So if an individual says, because look, really, people talk about the 7 chakras, and we know there's more. There's actually not 7. Nobody talks about the 8th and the 9th, and I'm not going to get into that right now for time's sake. But that's why I said the only person that knows it's removed is the individual because they've accepted that reality. And that's why I said it's subjective. I don't, really focus on it because, as I said, when you look at the chakras, and even when you do chakra meditations, right, with the serpent or the kundalini, why you raise it up and you take it out through the crown because it doesn't just stay there, is based on the concept that there is more. I get a little more in depth, but there's more than what they call the 7 chakras. But in essence, yes, that can be a construct too, if you start looking at it religiously. So if they feel like it's removed, the only person they need to confirm that to is themselves. But if I made that statement, I can't confirm it to nobody because if I go, hey, such and such, I've removed all my chakras, they go, okay, but so they have the same experience. It's not real to them. But yeah, I have no problem if you're going to remove it in that sense because it is a construct, just like anything else, and we don't want to get stuck in it. Yes, the draconian. This will be the last question. Snow and Boar, the Draconian Egyptian Grimoire by Bill Davenduck. That's a really good book. The Necromanian book that I mentioned earlier by Michael W. Ford, which is a replica of Charles Pace's work. Those are 2 I find that are the best out there right now. Michael W. Ford also has some other books you can look. Sekhem Apep, more vampiric, and it deals with the ancient Egyptian aspect, more vampiric. The Indian vampire book is a good one. I can't think of the name of it. Oh shit, I'm drawing a blank. God damn. Oh, the Ascetian Bible. That's a dark grimoire dealing with the vampiric aspect of some of the Egyptian gods and goddesses. I would look into those. All right, people. Having said that, I think we'll do this again. I'll try to incorporate that. Kind of like the freestyle thing, just kind of kicking it. It kind of flows smooth. I think we'll do this again. All right, just a quick reminder before everybody goes. Remember, I came on this evening. I'm not going to be on Wednesday night due to the holidays and family and traveling and people coming and going and all that other good shit. So that's why I came on tonight. Be back on next week, Wednesday, back on the regular night, 8 o'clock. And then we'll just go from there. So want to tell everybody, I know I'll be getting down. I'm looking forward to my Thanksgiving holiday with the family. Looking forward to the food. Looking forward to the fun. Looking forward to just kicking it and having fun. I know I'm going to be kicking it and I'm enjoying my weekend. For those that are going to be celebrating the holiday, enjoy your Thanksgiving. Don't eat too much. I know everybody says that, but nobody does it. I'm looking forward. There's probably
one of the main times I cheat. I will be cheating that day. Enjoy your holiday. Whatever you do, be safe. And we'll talk on Wednesday, people. Peace. Enjoy the rest of your week.